Nintendo has officially revealed the long-rumored new 2D Super Mario game, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, launching for the Nintendo Switch later this year. A new 2D Super Mario game has been rumored for months, and now fans know exactly what to expect from it. The vast majority of 2D Super Mario Bros. Games have been met with widespread gamer acclaim, though some of the more recent entries were not quite as well received. New Super Mario Bros. 2 on the 3DS is generally considered one of the weakest 2D Super Mario games, a distinction it shares with New Super Mario Bros. U. However, Super Mario Bros. Wonder looks like it's going to be moving the long-running franchise forward in some big ways. Based on the reveal trailer, it's retaining some of the more popular aspects of the new Super Mario Bros. Series while also going off in some bold new directions. The Super Mario Bros. Wonder reveal trailer is just over 2 minutes long, but is jam-packed with details, confirming its October 20th release date and much more. Boasting more detailed animation and more vibrant colors than its predecessors, Super Mario Bros. Wonder has Mario and company completing all kinds of platforming challenges, encountering new enemies and familiar foes along the way. Mario and gang can collect new power-ups to get an advantage, including one that warps the game world by bringing pipes to life, another that makes Mario extra tall, one that transforms him into a spike ball, and more. The art style is just fantastic. Mario won't be alone on this journey. Like the new Super Mario Bros. Series of games, Super Mario Bros. Wonder supports co-op play. Besides Mario, some of the other playable characters include Luigi, Toad, Yoshi, Princess Peach, and to the excitement of many hardcore Super Mario fans, the often neglected Princess Daisy. Super Mario Bros. Wonder seems to be checking all the boxes, and it will be exciting to see if it lives up to the hype come launch. Regardless of who is playable and to what extent they are playable. Super Mario Bros. Wonder will support 4-player local co-op on a single Nintendo Switch system when the game launches later this year. This means that Super Mario Bros. Wonder will not have any online co-op support. This may come as a disappointing revelation to some fans, but most likely assumed that would be the case considering previous games in the series. The Super Mario Bros. Wonder trailer ends with a look at yet another new power-up Mario will be able to utilize in his latest adventure. It transforms him into a literal elephant that can kick away a Goomba, but it's unclear what other powers it might possess. It's likely that the other playable characters in Super Mario Bros. Wonder have their own animal forms as well. Super Mario Bros. Wonder showed off a few unique new powers that will appear alongside other returning Super Mario power-ups. The most prominent new power is the Wonder Flower, which causes bizarre changes in the world when touched. Its effects include creating stampedes, making Mario grow absurdly long, and bringing pipes to life, with other effects sure to appear as well. The end of the trailer also revealed an apple power-up that turns Mario into an elephant that can punch enemies away. It will be interesting to see how these new power-ups affect Super Mario Bros. Wonder's gameplay and level design. The gameplay of Super Mario Bros. Wonder looks to be largely classic Super Mario Bros. Styled platforming, but with a few twists. In addition to collecting Super Mario Bros. Classic coins, there are also some unnamed purple fragments for players to collect in the Wonder Flower segments, although their purpose is unclear. Players will also be able to collect Wonder Seeds by completing levels and performing mid-level tasks. Other gameplay features include using Mario's hat as a glider and sliding along rails in auto-scrolling segments. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is mixing some new ideas with old-school Mario platforming, and the result should be exciting. It has been a few years since Mario's last big adventure, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder looks like it's fully prepared to make up for lost time. The addition of Daisy, the bizarre effects of the Wonder Flower, and the levels shown off in the reveal are a strong start for the new Super Mario title. Super Mario Bros. Wonder looks to be one of Mario's weirdest adventures, and possibly one of his best. Nintendo has officially announced a remake of the beloved Super Nintendo game Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. While it decided to opt out of the Summer Game Fest events, Nintendo still hosted a special Summer Nintendo Direct event to showcase some of the new games in development for the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo announced the Super Mario RPG Remake with a nice trailer that showed off the vastly improved graphics. Based on the trailer, the Super Mario RPG Remake will be very faithful to the original gameplay-wise, but with a modern look and some improvements. Anyone excited to relive Super Mario RPG should note that the game is coming to the Nintendo Switch on November 17th, so it's just 5 months away. Pre-orders for the game are available now. For those unfamiliar with Super Mario RPG, the game is basically a precursor to the Paper Mario and Luigi games. It employs similar turn-based gameplay, but mixed with features pulled straight from the core Super Mario series. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars earned a great deal of critical acclaim at the time of its release in 1996. And it seems like a safe bet that the remake will enjoy a similar reception when it launches later this year. Super Mario RPG features plenty of characters pulled straight from the Mario games, but it also some original characters as well. One of the most notable is Geno, the living puppet character with blue clothing. Fans have long wanted to see Geno added to the Super Smash Bros. Roster, but that has yet to happen. Now that Super Mario RPG is getting a remake on the Nintendo Switch, fans will no doubt have their fingers crossed that this will open the door for Geno to finally make his debut on the Smash roster. Once the trailer for SMRPG jumps into gameplay, fans might notice that there's something new among the familiar sights already. In the left-hand corner is a circular meter measured in percentages that seems to go up during both the player's turn and the enemy's turn. It appears that this meter is tied to the action commands Paper Mario or Mario and Luigi fans may be familiar with. While the other Mario RPGs kept action commands alive, Super Mario RPG was the one that first introduced them. Even though Super Mario RPG has a history with the action command system, this percentage gauge is new. There's also a chain counter that likely keeps track of how many action commands the player successfully pulls off in succession, and appears to offer boosts to different stats depending on just how many fans can reach. This may not be the case, however, as the SMRPG trailer doesn't explain this mechanic. When it came to picturing this classic SNES game being revived, not many fans would have pictured things panning out this perfectly. For some, they may have accepted losing the isometric perspective or the art style in favor of having SMRPG remade. And others would have just been happy with any RPG that brought back Mallow and Geno. Not only is the game being remade faithfully in 3D, but a few adjustments are being made to improve the experience as well. Right away, the trailer puts a spotlight on one of the biggest improvements the remake adds to the game, which is fully animated 3D cutscenes. In the original game, many of Super Mario RPG's iconic moments were animated through sprites and given dialogue through text boxes. Similarly to the Pokémon Mystery Dungeon Switch remake, though, it appears that bigger moments will be given cinematic cutscenes. And there's a strong possibility that special moves will have dramatic cutaways to their own special animations as well. Yoko Shimomura, the composer for Super Mario RPG who went on to work on the Mario and Luigi series and the soundtrack of Kingdom Hearts, has already stated that she's back for this remake. That means all the beautiful recreations of the game's music heard in the trailer had their original composer behind them. There are likely even more surprises to be found with the new version of SMRPG, such as whether the game has at least a small bit of voice acting. Nintendo announced a new game starring Princess Peach, giving the leader of the Mushroom Kingdom a moment to shine in her own adventure. After spending years in peril being kidnapped by Bowser, Nintendo announced that Princess Peach will be the star of her own game coming to Nintendo Switch in 2024. Details about the title are scarce, but Nintendo has released a video less than 30 seconds long showing the gameplay of what indicates to be a 2.5D side-scroller reminiscent of other Mario RPGs. Princess Peach encounters different characters and traverses scenarios from a theater version of the Mushroom Kingdom, accompanied by a star that makes the pair resemble Rosalina and her Luma companion. Despite the few details released by Nintendo, one thing in the teaser for the new Princess Peach game has caught the eye. The video shows that when Princess Peach steps onto a special pedestal, her iconic pink dress changes to a light blue version, indicating that the character is powered up in some way. The information about the Princess Peach game announced in the newest Nintendo Direct presentation ends there. Nintendo promises, however, that players will have more information at a future date. Interestingly enough, this is not the character's first time in the spotlight, as Princess Peach got a Nintendo DS game in 2005, the last time players saw her as the protagonist of her own adventure. Super Princess Peach earned somewhat mixed reception at the time of its release, so it will be interesting to see if this new game fares better with gamers. One of the biggest surprise announcements of Wednesday's Nintendo Direct was the reveal of Star Ocean: The Second Story R. It's a remake of Star Ocean 2, a JRPG first released on the original PlayStation in 1998. The game is receiving a massive and striking 2.5 visual update, additional quality of life features, and all new combat improvements. Star Ocean fans won't have to wait long either, as Star Ocean: The Second Story R's release date has been confirmed by Square Enix for later this year. Star Ocean: The Second Story is, as its name implies, the second game in the now 6-game-long Star Ocean franchise. It was first released in 1998 but received a remastered re-release in 2008 for the PlayStation Portable. That re-release was then brought to PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation Vita, but only in Japan. As such, Star Ocean: The Second Story R will the first opportunity to play Star Ocean: The Second Story on modern platforms in the West, or for those who never picked up a PSP the first time. Well over a dozen games were shown during Wednesday's Nintendo Direct event. Star Ocean: The Second Story R was revealed towards the end of the show and was one of the most exciting reveals overall. The short trailer revealed a dramatic rework of the JRPG's visuals, shifting to a 2.5D style with 3D backgrounds, pixel in-game characters, and hand-drawn character profile art. It's akin to Square Enix's 2.5D titles like Triangle Strategy and Octopath Traveler, but stands out on its own in a beautiful way. That's possible because Square Enix appears to be developing the remake. This isn't wholly the same game as the original Star Ocean: The Second Story, however. Improvements are being made to the JRPG's combat system to make it faster and more dynamic. That includes chain attacks that can stun enemies, assist attacks from allies not currently in the party, and more changes. While some fans of the original game may balk, Star Ocean: The Second Story R will hopefully be better as a result. Before JRPG fans start to worry that Star Ocean: The Second Story R might be exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, it's already been confirmed otherwise. Star Ocean: The Second Story R will be launching not just on Switch, but also on PC, PS4, and PS5. The official release date for all platforms is November 2nd. 2023 is already packed with outstanding games to play, and the year isn't even half over. It's not unlike 1998, when Star Ocean: The Second Story first released. Hopefully, Square Enix is rewarded this time around and Star Ocean: The Second Story R isn't as overlooked as it was in the past. At its heart, Star Ocean: The Second Story remains an epic sci-fi fantasy JRPG with a sprawling narrative and dozens of incredible characters. The improvements are a bonus. A frequent Nintendo leaker has made the bold claim that a Chrono Trigger remake is in development for the Nintendo Switch. Chrono Trigger is generally considered to be one of the best video games ever made, and so it's safe to say that a remake would generate significant interest. Chrono Trigger originally released for the Super Nintendo in 1995 to rave reception and was later ported to other platforms, including the PlayStation 1, Nintendo DS, mobile devices, and PC. According to Nintendo leaker Zippo, Square Enix has a full remake of Chrono Trigger in the works. More specifically, it will be an HD, 2D remake, a la the Dragon Quest III remake that's still in development. For those unfamiliar with those kinds of games, they basically mimic the art style of Square Enix's Octopath Traveler series. Considering the Star Ocean remake, Chrono Trigger might not be far behind. Speaking of remakes, some of the developers at Square Enix want to remake Final Fantasy VI on modern hardware. Released for the Super NES in 1994, Final Fantasy VI was the last traditional 2D entry in the mainline Final Fantasy series and is noted by fans for eschewing the franchise's then customary medieval settings in favor of a steampunk world inspired by the Second Industrial Revolution. Final Fantasy VI's deep and mature plot is also well regarded, and many of the game's characters have become fan favorites, including the young heroine Terra Branford and the maniacal clown sorcerer Kefka Palazzo. Both Terra and Kefka have gone on to represent Final Fantasy VI in the Dissidia Final Fantasy series of fighting game spin-offs. And the original game has been ported to modern systems like PC and the Nintendo Switch over the years. Final Fantasy VI was one of the many classic Final Fantasy entries to be updated in the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster Collection. But many players have been wishing for a full-blown remake in the style of the recent Final Fantasy VII Remake series. They might not be the only ones who want this either, as one of the Final Fantasy series' biggest names recently expressed a desire to remake Final Fantasy VI during a roundtable interview on YouTube, as translated by Twitter user GenkiJPN. At one point, Square Enix vice president and Final Fantasy VII Remake producer Yoshinori Kaitase mentioned how his development team would regularly ask him about a Final Fantasy VI remake. He notes that this project would be difficult, but acknowledges that many within Square Enix would like to see it happen. According to a reputable Final Fantasy leaker, Square Enix is preparing to release a Final Fantasy X remake at some point in 2026. According to Ime Hero 2, a Reset Era user who has accurately leaked Final Fantasy news but has since deleted their account on the forum, the next Final Fantasy remake after FF9 is Final Fantasy X. Apparently, the game will be out in time for Final Fantasy X's next big anniversary, which would be in 2026. Final Fantasy X was the first main series Final Fantasy game to hit PlayStation 2. It had cutting-edge graphics for the time, an engaging cast of memorable characters, and a fun battle system that both stuck with Final Fantasy's turn-based roots while employing some new ideas at the same time. It may not be as fondly remembered as Final Fantasy VII, but Final Fantasy X is still incredibly popular, and it would make a perfect candidate for a remake. As far as Ime Hero 2's credibility goes, they have accurately leaked Final Fantasy news and JRPG news in general. They leaked the existence of the Persona 3 remake and its planned announcement at the Xbox showcase on June 11th, and they also leaked Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's release date delay to 2024. There's still a chance that their information is inaccurate, though, especially since this supposed Final Fantasy X remake is still at least 3 years from launch. A team of passionate Final Fantasy fans revealed the gameplay demo of Final Fantasy IX Memoria Project, a fan-made remake of Final Fantasy IX. After the success of Final Fantasy VII Remake, it is not too far-fetched to believe that there will be another remake of a Final Fantasy game. Many fans are interested in seeing Square Enix breathe new life into Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy IX is a JRPG that was released in 2000 for the PlayStation. It is the 9th game in the Final Fantasy series, and compared to the latest releases in the series, Final Fantasy IX is one of its more unique titles. It features a cast of quirky characters and a stylized art style with medieval theming similar to the first Final Fantasy rather than the sci-fi setting common to later Final Fantasy games. Although it is not as popular as other titles in the series, it is recognized for having one of the best storylines in the Final Fantasy series. After 3 years in the making, a team of fans consisting of more than 50 professional video game developers and artists released a gameplay demo for Final Fantasy IX. Memoria Project, a fan-made remake of Final Fantasy IX. The 25-minute gameplay demo showcases the opening scene of the Kingdom of Alexandria, which features new graphics, updated gameplay, and other quality-of-life changes that both new and old fans would be impressed by. The demo is non-playable so as to not infringe upon Square Enix's copyright. However, the official and original Final Fantasy IX recently became available to play on PlayStation 5. Most fans shared their love for all the work that has been put into recreating Final Fantasy IX while discussing what made the original so great to them. Twitter users like Kikianelli commented on how Final Fantasy IX was the game that solidified their love for JRPGs. Many users also agree that the possibility of petting chocobos in Final Fantasy IX just like it is shown in the fan-made remake would heighten the immersion. Although fans reacted positively to the Final Fantasy IX Memoria Project gameplay demo, I found myself fooled by it because I had thought it to be playable. Fortunately, our desire to play its remake may come true. Square Enix may make an announcement this year regarding a Final Fantasy IX remake. If the rumors are true, fans wonder if Square Enix can meet or outdo the performance and expectations of the fan-made project after being blown away by all it offered players a glimpse of. If Square Enix is indeed looking to remake more Final Fantasy games, then Final Fantasy VI would be a prime candidate given its imaginative setting and memorable cast of characters. It seems that even members of Square Enix itself share this sentiment. Though Yoshinori Kaitase admits that it might be some time before a Final Fantasy VI remake materializes given his current commitments to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and its eventual sequel. After that, FF9 and 10 should follow. With the greatness of Final Fantasy XVI, I'm playing right now, and it's my game of the generation so far, and FF7 Rebirth coming early next year. Final Fantasy is returning to its form and need to reach even greater heights as Final Fantasy XVI has sold 3 million copies worldwide in just 5 days. There was some curiosity about whether Final Fantasy XVI would be as successful in Japan as past titles in the series. The main reason for the speculation was the game's increased focus on the Western audience this time around. This is the first Final Fantasy game to record the English dialogue first, despite being developed by a Japanese video game studio and written by a native Japanese speaker, Kazutoyo Maehiro. Any fears about the groundbreaking JRPG franchise losing its relevance in the East Asia can be put to bed with the latest sales numbers for FF16. The popular Japanese video game media outlet Famitsu's most recent Final Fantasy XVI retail sales numbers are astonishing, putting the game at 336,000 sold. That easily makes it the highest retail launch for any PlayStation 5 game in the region. It nearly quadruples the Japanese retail launch sales for Elden Ring, the game currently in second place. These sales numbers are obviously wildly impressive, but they also prove that there is still a vested interest in both Final Fantasy and the PlayStation 5 in Japan. I've noted Sony making a notable shift towards the West in recent years, and nearly all of the PS5 games, like Returnal and God of War Ragnarok, have been made by Western developers as a result. It took a while for PS5 sales to really gain any traction in its home country, and the Nintendo Switch is still handily winning the console war in the region. Even though the 3 million sales in a big launch in Japan is impressive, FF16 still lags behind the previous entry's numbers in a big way when considering the launch numbers. I hope the lifetime sales will be higher than the others, and Final Fantasy XVI will have longer legs. By this stat, Final Fantasy XVI became the fastest-selling PS5 exclusive to date, and the 6th fastest-selling PlayStation exclusive in recent memory. Konami confirmed that Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 will release on October 24th, in addition to detailing the upcoming bundle's bonus features. The information was shared as part of the June 21st Nintendo Direct. The Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 set was first unveiled at the latest PlayStation Showcase, with Konami originally saying that the bundle is only coming to PC and the current-gen consoles from Sony and Microsoft. However, its appearance at today's Nintendo Direct confirmed that Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 is also slated to release for the Switch come late October. Additionally, the brief trailer featured during the June 21st broadcast provided an overview of the bundle's many bonus features. The highlights from this list of extra content include a NES port of Metal Gear, not to be confused with the significantly different MSX original that's also part of the collection, and Snake's Revenge. Both of those titles were developed without Hideo Kojima's involvement and are hence marketed as bonus content instead of joining the 5 mainline games from Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. In fact, the 1987 NES port ended up being so different that Kojima publicly denounced it back in 2001 as not being up to his standards, so it's an interesting bit of history to experience. The upcoming collection will also include Metal Gear Solid's digital graphic novel and its sequel, a pair of interactive comic books originally released for the PSP back in 2006. Additionally, each of the 5 included mainline titles will be paired with a digital screenplay book containing all in-game dialogue, character briefing files, and codec call scripts. 5 digital master books are part of the package, as well, offering strategy guide content, key character quotes, and other information about Kojima's first 5 Metal Gear games. Finally, the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 will ship with an abridged digital soundtrack containing 20 iconic tracks from the long-running series. The list of recordings includes fan favorites such as Theme of Solid Snake and Snake Eater by Cynthia Harrell. The games that collectively make up the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 can be purchased separately. The individual titles that make up Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 will be available for individual purchase, as confirmed by Konami. The games will be available for $20 a pop. Other informations reveal that it will be only controller supported on PC, makes sense due to the controller-focused creative mechanics and boss fights of certain moments in Metal Gear history. Another thing fans might already be wondering about is whether other games in the Metal Gear series will also be remade or re-released in the future. The very name Master Collection Volume 1 implies that there will be a second volume, but what it might contain is anyone's guess at this stage. Hopefully Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots will either be re-released with the second volume or remade since it remains a PS3 exclusive. The Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 set will be followed by MGS Delta Snake Eater, a remake of MGS3 that's still without a release date but could end up hitting the market as early as 2024. Beyond that, Konami already confirmed it's open to remaking more Metal Gear games. The Apple Vision Pro has been announced during Apple's WWDC 2023 presentation, a mixed reality headset delivering both augmented and virtual reality applications and content. What at first looks like a pair of snowboarding goggles is what might be Apple's most complicated hardware it's ever created. The Apple Vision Pro will allow users to play games, view media, conduct business, and more, all while on the move thanks to a wired battery that can fit in a pocket. Rumors of Apple working on a hybrid augmented, virtual reality device have been swirling for years. Apple was said to be seeking a foothold in a market that's been seen as a major future growth opportunity for years now. Outside of niche markets, however, like PC gaming-focused VR headsets or more casual mobile VR headsets, devices have struggled to gain mainstream appeal. Both the Microsoft HoloLens and Google Glass headsets, for example, have been discontinued. Apple believes its Apple Vision Pro headset is the hardware that will change everything, it seems. Unveiled during WWDC 2023, the Apple Vision Pro is a simple-looking machine with big promises. It's worn like a pair of goggles, fully covering the user's eyes with a transparent screen and held to the back of the head with a padded strap, allowing users to see their environment with the system's interface and various windows able to be positioned around the user and seemingly anchored in the air around them. The headset can also turn opaque for more fully immersive experiences, with the visor regaining transparency to show the real world to the user in specific contexts, like when someone else approaches. The headset itself is the computer, powered by a battery pack that's worn in a pocket and connected via a wire running up the user's back. Controls for the Vision Pro are the user's hands, with gestures recognized by the headset and no VR controllers required. Uses for the Apple Vision Pro are myriad, as it blends the real with the digital. Standard Apple apps were prominently featured, including Apple Photos, FaceTime, and Music. These apps have been improved for Vision Pro, of course. Photos can be experienced in 3D with the headset's 3D camera. FaceTime can create augmented reality face-to-face interactions or meetings and display the user via digitally constructed faces. And Music scans and adapts to 3D environments to create immersive listening experiences. Apple insisted it could be controlled solely through hand gestures, eye tracking, and voice control. However, it does support game controllers. The keynote shows a user playing the Apple Arcade version of NBA 2K23 on Vision Pro with a DualSense PS5 controller. Apple also promised the headset would be the best device for enjoying 3D movie content. Disney CEO Bob Iger showed off some of the things Disney was working on for Vision Pro, saying the headset would allow the company to make more personalized experiences for fans than ever before possible. Partners showcased during the event include both Disney and Unity. Disney confirmed the Disney Plus streaming service would be available for Apple Vision Pro Day 1, and shared a demo of possible interactive experiences that could run on the device. Unity apps will run natively on Apple Vision Pro, meaning developers will be able to create or adapt augmented reality experiences with relative ease. In introducing the headset, Apple CEO Tim Cook said it would introduce people to spatial computing in the same way iPhone introduced them to mobile computing. Apple also said it has been working with Unity to bring Unity-based apps to Vision Pro with support for Vision Pro gestures and interaction with other Vision apps. On privacy and security, Apple has an Optic ID system that examines the user's iris to unlock the system. The company says it engineered privacy into the device, so where you look stays private with a background process. So apps can only tell where users are looking when they use a gesture to interact with the app. Considering the cutting-edge hardware Apple is putting into the Apple Vision Pro, it's no surprise that the device is going to be very expensive. Apple's announced launch price for the Apple Vision Pro is $3,499. This is a computer, after all, better compared to a MacBook than an iPhone. Apple Vision Pro will be available in the United States with more countries to follow later in the year, in early 2024, and can be purchased through Apple's website or at Apple storefronts. Apple's Vision Pro is undoubtedly impressive, but the 30-plus minute reveal at 2023's WWDC made it clear that the Vision Pro is a tool meant for the workplace, not necessarily for gaming. It should be noted that Hideo Kojima received his own featured spot to announce that Death Stranding would be coming to the Vision Pro. But that was essentially the only reference to its gaming capabilities. Compared to its main competitor, Meta's Quest headsets, the lack of gaming features and hefty price point have proven that Apple is going in a different direction. Additionally, the initial presentation did not reveal any true VR assets, with Apple instead focusing on AR features more helpful in a workplace. Death Stranding is not a new, VR version of the game, but rather just the console version played on a virtual screen within the Vision Pro's ecosystem. Apple could have a very lucrative future in gaming, but the first version of the Vision Pro will not be pushing it in that direction. Hardcore Apple users may find all the benefits of the Vision Pro worth the price. However, looking at it strictly from a gaming perspective, the Vision Pro has cemented itself as a luxury item rather than the next gaming essential. Let's see if Apple's rumored gaming console also becomes true like this one did. Speaking of this AR/VR headset, Sony filed a patent detailing what may be an Apple Vision Pro competitor, a PlayStation-branded AR headset. Sony Interactive Entertainment filed a patent for what could be a new PlayStation product that implements AR technology for gaming. The product could detect the user's current environment and allow them to play AR games remotely. The patent illustrates a user playing a game using AR technology while still being present in their current environment. The game, its audio, and a virtual can is captured while the user is still aware of their environment, such as background noises from outside the space, essentially bringing their game into reality rather than being transported to a virtual world. There are currently no AR titles available for the PlayStation 5, so it is possible that Sony will release a new product implementing AR technology in the years ahead. Other than the patent documents, Sony has not publicly shared any information regarding a possible new product implementing AR technology. Sony has been implementing VR technology into its products since 2016 with the PlayStation VR and later with its next iteration, the PlayStation VR 2, which was released in 2023. It is evident that Sony is committed to widening its horizon with mixed reality implemented into its products. A good portion of the 2023 PlayStation Showcase was dedicated to its upcoming VR games such as Synapse and Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2. Being teleported into a game has been a cool idea to many gamers since its inception, and advancements in technology have been turning the impossible into reality. While the PlayStation VR 2 sold better than its predecessor, it still struggles to capture a broader audience. The third time could be the charm if Sony demonstrates that it has learned from its previous attempts with its potential new product. Sony's sensors and lenses majorly contributed to the Apple Vision Pro, so it might be possible for them to make their own move into the AR tech after the PS Vita. A patent from Sony Interactive Entertainment shows off a technology that would allow multiple players to share the inputs of a single controller using a cloud gaming service. Sony is leaning heavily into cloud gaming technologies at the moment. PlayStation 5 has been dominating the gaming world, and it doesn't seem as though Sony is content to rest on its laurels amid this success. Recently, Sony unveiled its new Project Q remote play handheld that has apparently been on the drawing board for the better part of 8 years. Now, a newly published patent shows what could be another very promising technology for the PS5 or whatever else the company has coming in the future. The title of the Sony patent is Dynamic Allocation of Split Control in a Video Game. And a diagram along with a brief abstract explains further exactly what this patent could do for the gaming world. Essentially, this technology allows one controller's inputs to be divided between multiple players via a cloud gaming service. As the diagram shows, in a game like Street Fighter 6, there could potentially be one player controlling the sticks for movement, one player controlling the primary buttons, and one player controlling the trigger buttons. It's unclear at the moment if this feature would work outside of cloud gaming, as the patent only describes this as a cloud technology. This patent is extremely interesting and could be a potentially groundbreaking accessibility feature for gamers with limitations on how many buttons they can reach on a controller. However, whether this will make controlling a character easier or more complicated is a good question. In a fighting game like Tekken or Street Fighter, which needs a high amount of coordination and memorization to pull off long combos and combo strings. Sharing one controller could make this easier as a result of not having to memorize every movement of a combo. On the flip side, there would have to be a high level of communication between all involved players to ensure the buttons are hit in the right order. If anything, this will be a supremely entertaining technology to watch and participate in. It seems likely that multiple people attempting to control one in-game character will result in a mess where no one can agree on what to do a lot of the time. It's going to be exciting to see how or if Sony ultimately unveils this tech. Sony Interactive Entertainment recently unveiled a patent regarding the creation of a possible system that would allow a gamer to play cloud games remotely using only a controller and a projector. This is just one among the many recent patents filed by Sony regarding technologies that may give it an edge against its competitors, and it seems to mark the company's growing interest in the cloud gaming market. Despite the overwhelming commercial success of the PS5, Sony is still focused on creating new technologies to remain at the top of the industry, especially in the fields where it's not doing so well. Now, a new patent filed by Sony showcases what could be a system for remote play using a local projector. This new technology would allow a gamer to use a special controller to stream games from the cloud directly into a projector, without needing a console or a screen. According to the document, the controller would have a motion sensor, work in a fully wireless way, and be fully integrated with the projector. The new patent shows that Sony is increasingly interested in cloud streaming, which may not surprise people following the technology giant's most recent announcements. Last week, the company revealed that PS Plus premium subscribers will be able to access cloud streaming for PS5 games soon. At the moment, only games from previous platforms, such as the PS3 or the PS4, can be streamed via the cloud on Sony's console, and only in some countries. But tests are currently being made to upgrade this functionality. Speaking of VR, Meta announced its Meta Quest 3 headset along with a fall release window. Base model of Meta's newest standalone VR headset will start at $499, with the company promising it will be 40% thinner, with better displays, higher resolution, and high-res color. It will also feature a next-gen Qualcomm Snapdragon chipset that Meta is touting as having double the graphics performance of the Quest 2, as well as new Touch Plus controllers with haptic functionality. Meta has confirmed Quest 3 will be compatible with the entire Quest 2 library of titles. More details on the headset are expected to be announced September 27 during Meta's Connect conference. They also did a Meta Quest showcase recently, where they showed a vast amount of titles. Embracer has made some key changes to its executive management team as it begins an extensive restructuring of the group. The company announced this morning that it was making significant changes to its operations in order to reduce its debts, and shifted from being focused on heavy investments to being a highly cash flow generative business. As part of this, Saber Interactive CEO Matthew Karch is stepping down from his position and as a board member for Embracer Group to become interim chief operating officer. Saber Interactive COO Andre Iones will take over from Karch. Meanwhile, Phil Rogers has been appointed interim chief strategy officer. He will retain his position as CEO of Crystal Dynamics, Eidos. Embracer Group has confirmed the restructuring process will involve closing studios and canceling projects. Embracer has announced a restructuring program, which will lead to studio closures. The comprehensive program, CEO Lars Winchfor said, is to better optimize the use of Embracer's resources. As part of the restructuring, the company intends to take operational and financial measures to increase cash conversion, improve efficiency, and reduce capex. In order to reach a financial net debt under 10 billion Swedish kronor, roughly $930 million, by the end of the financial year 2023/2024. Embracer also plans to reduce overhead costs by at least 10% or 800 million Swedish kronor, $75 million, per year. While the company didn't provide further details on that aspect, it did say that its restructuring actions will include the closing of studios and termination of projects that have not yet been announced and with low projected returns. In an open letter, Winchfor said, Embracer currently engages close to 17,000 people, and while that number will be lower by the end of the year, it is too early to give an exact forecast on this. The company will reduce investment into external development to focus on internal development based on owned or controlled IP, while also seeing increased external funding of internally developed, large-budget games. Consolidation is also listed as part of the actions, as is the creation of a more comprehensive, centralized process for game investment and progress review, while maintaining creative freedom. As of March 31, 2023, Embracer's net debt amounted to 15.6 billion Swedish kronor, $1.45 billion. While the program is effective immediately, Embracer said it will be fully implemented by October 1, 2023 and be divided into different phases until March 2024. The program is expected to have a neutral impact on adjusted EBIT in FY 2023-24, with lower overhead costs, but also lower net capitalized development costs and slightly lower net sales, the company clarified. Windfors commented, during the past years, Embracer invested significantly both in acquisitions and into a strategy of accelerated organic growth. We have acquired some of the world's leading entertainment IP and we have invested into one of the largest pipelines of games across the industry. Program presented today will transform us from our current heavy investment mode to a highly cash flow generative business this year. He later continued, after completion of this program, we will generate growth in profitability with less business risk and with higher margins in the PC and console segment over the coming years. This, in turn, will give us the freedom to continue to grow and deliver the high-quality experiences our players really value. As part of the restructuring program, Embracer has made key changes to its executive management team. Earlier this year, Embracer announced that a deal worth over $2 billion collapsed due to external factors. In its financials for 2022, the company saw its sales rise but admitted it was a challenging year. In November 2022, the company had announced a special review of its business to account for new market conditions. Embracer had been on a buying spree for a few years now. Its most recent meaningful acquisitions included Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal and Square Enix Montreal, acquired for $300 million in May 2022. Before closing down Square Enix Montreal's studio and QA team in November of the same year, Asmodee for €2.75 billion in December 2021, and the Lord of the Rings IP, Tripwire Limited Run and more for almost $600 million in August 2022. As the world moves into more consolidation, more project cancellations, more studio closures and more layoffs and losses will be the result. Embracer Group currently has 221 games in development, the Swedish gaming giant disclosed on June 21, in addition to revealing how many of those titles are yet to be announced. This astonishing figure was shared mere days after Embracer Group announced plans to cancel multiple games and close some of its studios as part of a comprehensive restructuring. The Karlstad-based company has been on a major shopping spree for several years prior to its newly confirmed corporate reshuffle, having spent over $8 billion on acquisitions in 2022 alone. A year earlier, Embracer Group merged with Gearbox Software, Grimfrost, Fractured Byte, and over half a dozen other companies. As of March 31, 2023, the conglomerate owns 12 operative groups spanning 138 internal studios with a total headcount of 16,601, according to its newly published sustainability report. The same brief also reveals that the company currently has 221 games in the works, 165 of which are unannounced. That's a 47% increase compared to 2 years ago when Embracer Group had 150 games in development. Despite that major increase, it remains to be seen how many of Embracer's present projects actually make it to the market. Not least because the aforementioned restructuring announcement explicitly mentioned game cancellations as one of the primary cost-cutting efforts that the company is now exploring on a per-project basis. Embracer Group CEO Lars Wingefors labeled the restructuring as a reaction to the slowing global economic growth which inhibited the gaming industry throughout 2022 and continues to do so this year. Nevertheless, Embracer Group doubled its record-high revenue during the past fiscal year to $3.24 billion, which makes it one of the 20 largest game publishers on the planet. Following its newly concluded acquisition spree that saw Embracer Group acquire the IP rights to Lord of the Rings, Borderlands, Saints Row, Tomb Raider, and many other franchises. The company now owns a total of 896 IPs, its latest report reveals. And while its ongoing restructuring will inevitably shutter some projects and studios, The conglomerate says it's planning to stick with its highly decentralized corporate composition that provides its subsidiaries with both creative freedom and financial accountability alike. Embracer Group is already enjoying skyrocketing profits. It ended 2022 with $240 million in the black, thus more than quadrupling its previous record from 2 years prior. As for the hundreds of games that it currently has in the works at Crystal Dynamics and its 11 other operating groups, at least some of those titles are likely to be on the horizon by now. A new report reveals that many developers working on Redfall wanted Microsoft to cancel the game before its release. Per a new Bloomberg report, Redfall began as a multiplayer game under ZeniMax, with a big focus on live service elements. In the report, there are many reasons given for the state of Redfall at launch, including a lack of a clear direction and the development team being understaffed. It states that by the end of Redfall's development, around 70% of the staff that had worked on Prey had left Arkane Austin, with filling vacant positions also being a challenge. Microsoft purchased ZeniMax in 2021, and some of the staff reportedly hoped that it would cancel Redfall or at least allow them to reboot the game as a single-player title. However, the report claims that Microsoft was pretty hands-off, allowing studios under ZeniMax to operate as usual. Bloomberg also mentions that Microsoft cancelled a PlayStation version of Redfall that was reportedly in development, making it exclusive to Xbox Series X and PC. There is a ton of other information in the report, including significant microtransactions plans that were only scrapped in 2021. While Redfall began as a live service title, it looks like a number of other factors contributed to the game's poor release as well, with a lack of staff being a major issue. When Redfall's development started in 2018, ZeniMax encouraged studios to create live service titles following the success of titles such as Overwatch and Fortnite. It also began pushing game markers to make monetization options within their titles, as seen with Fallout 76, Doom Eternal, Wolfenstein, Youngblood, and other releases. Harvey Smith and Ricardo Bear, co-directors of Redfall, explained the project to employees as a multiplayer Arkane game. There was uncertainty among staff that what the studio specialized in would be technically feasible in a multiplayer game. The project's direction was unclear as management used different games as referrals, such as Far Cry, an open-world FPS, and Borderlands, a RPG shooter. These opposing examples resulted in departments having different understandings of what they were developing. Arkane's Austin office had fewer than 100 employees working on the multiplayer shooter, with plenty of turnover on the team. By the end of Redfall's development cycle, 70% of the Arkane Austin team that developed Prey had left the company. Aggravating the turnover problem was ZeniMax's struggle to fill roles following departures, which was attributed to a reputation for lower wages and not convincing developers to move to Texas. In addition, due to the project's secrecy at the time, job listings did not specify that roles were for a multiplayer team title. As a result, job applicants typically expected to only work on single-player experiences of the sort for which the studio was known, following Microsoft's $7.5 billion acquisition of ZeniMax. Developers on Redfall believed that the studio would shift to a single-player game or get cancelled. Instead, however, Microsoft would let ZeniMax operate as it has before. The title would go on to see a number of delays until its May launch, and Arkane's first Xbox exclusive would release to low critical scores. The report on Redfall's troubled development comes nearly a month after Xbox head Phil Spencer acknowledged it had technical issues and a critical response beneath Microsoft's expectations. As a result of its reception at launch, Redfall is already out of the top 50 most played games on Xbox consoles despite being a month old. Redfall has a big focus on co-op gameplay, but it looks like users aren't interested in playing the game even though it's available at no extra cost on Xbox Game Pass. The Steam numbers are not any better, as only 73 gamers are playing Redfall at this time. Hopefully the studio doesn't fall off because of this failure, and focus on single-player games moving forward. Electronic Arts announced a major restructuring that saw it rename its long-running EA Games division into EA Entertainment, in addition to introducing several other changes to its corporate composition. This development coincides with the publisher's newly announced decision to delay Immortals of Aveum to August. Founded in 1982 by one of Apple's first 50 employees, Trip Hawkins, Electronic Arts established the EA Games brand in 1999 as an all-encompassing moniker of its publishing division. This makes it the company's second oldest in-house label after EA Sports, which started in 1991. That particular division just went through a somewhat turbulent 12-month period that saw EA Sports lose its FIFA license and put out a poorly reviewed Madden NFL 23. In a June 20th announcement, EA CEO Andrew Wilson revealed that the company underwent a major reshuffle by organizing all of its studios into EA Sports and EA Entertainment, formerly EA Games. The industry veteran labeled the move as an evolution of EA, which will allow its many divisions to seize more creative ownership and financial accountability over their projects, all with the goal of improving efficiency. Restructuring should hence boost the company's growth prospects and ensure long-term value for both its employees and players alike, Wilson concluded. EA Chief Operating Officer Laura Mila was appointed as the head of EA Entertainment, while Executive Vice President Cam Weber will continue to lead EA Sports in an expanded role after the reshuffle saw him emerge as the division's president. One of his first big challenges will be to build out a new brand of soccer games meant to replace EA's FIFA franchise. Meanwhile, Mila will be looking to grow the EA Entertainment label, whose very name implies that the conglomerate has growing ambitions beyond the video game industry. The announcement of the reshuffling mentioned no particular changes to the company's overall content strategy, with EA stressing the importance of single-player games as late as last year. This corporate restructuring presumably won't inhibit its willingness to finance projects such as Star Wars Jedi Survivor and the Dead Space remake moving forward. The move also won't affect individual studio leadership at EA's many subsidiaries such as BioWare, Codemasters, Motive, and Respawn Entertainment. After over a decade of being in the fighting game space, Soul Calibur 5 is going to be delisted, making the base game and its DLC contents unavailable digitally on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Soul Calibur 5 will be delisted on June 19th. Soul Calibur 5 is one of the most divisive entries in the Soul Calibur fighting game series. The game has become infamous in the fighting game community thanks to its unbalanced mechanics and questionable roster decisions, such as the Omega and Alpha variants of combatants like Patroclus. While the game does succeed at bringing new faces and mechanics to the series, it still brings nightmares to some players with Ezio mirrors or Devil Gene matches in online matches. Still, most of the mechanics were refined and improved in the next entry, Soul Calibur 6. Bandai Namco has announced that Soul Calibur 5 will be delisted from the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 stores on June 19th. This means that the base game and its DLC will no longer be available for purchase after the date comes. The game will still be available in its physical version for fighting game players looking to re-experience the progenitor of the Soul Calibur series' more aggressive meta. Soul Calibur 5 will still be available for purchase digitally until June 19th, meaning that players can still purchase the game and its DLC add-ons before they are delisted from the digital stores. The add-ons include the extra character Dampierre, downloadable music packs that include songs from previous entries in the Soul Calibur series, and additional content for the game's creation mode that lets players bring their own character to the Soul Calibur 5 with cosmetics and custom moves. While Soul Calibur may 5th not be as fondly remembered as other fighting games before it, it also is an entry in the series worth looking back to with its more competitive mechanics and aggressive playstyles that set the course forward for the next entry. This resulted in the amply refined Soul Calibur 6, which introduced a well-versed roster alongside epic crossover characters such as Geralt from The Witcher and Haomaru from Samurai Showdown. NIS America has announced that 6 RPGs from its vast collection of games will be delisted from PlayStation's online store, as well as Nintendo's eShop over the course of the next 5 months. Some RPG fans will have no connection to these NIS America titles, while others will see some of their favorite games be lost forever if they don't already own a physical copy. It's been a rough few years for players who mainly purchase their games digitally. After Nintendo shut down the Wii U and 3DS eShops, there were many players who woke up to the idea that games may not live forever in the big digital cloud in the sky. The Wii U, for example, was the only system to play games like Xenoblade Chronicles X, Star Fox Zero, and The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD remakes. If these games are never ported to the Switch, those without physical versions of these titles may never play them again. And now, there are 6 more games that will see the same fate. NIS America, famous for games such as the Disgaea and Trail series, has put out a tweet informing fans of the departure of 6 RPGs from Nintendo's eShop and PlayStation Network, including PS4 and PS Vita. Most people at this point are used to games leaving Xbox Game Pass, but this is a different situation, as these RPGs will no longer be able to be purchased altogether. These games include both Demon Gaze and Demon Gaze 2, God Wars: The Complete Legend and God Wars: Future Past, The Lost Child, and Natural Doctrine. Each game has a little time left on its respective shop, with some titles be delisted later this month and others as late as November. This gives players the chance to play through at least one or two of the games that are leaving. Probably the most well-known titles in the bunch are the two Demon Gaze games, a couple of dungeon crawlers that have amassed a small but loyal following. Just like the two God Wars games, a couple of tactical RPG titles that explore Japan's untold folklore. No matter how average or bad some of these scores are, each one of these games has a fanbase, and this news may affect them. The reason is unknown why NIS America decided to unlist these games, but it's becoming clear how important physical copies are to those who want to keep one of their favorite titles forever. Even more so for companies known for shutting down popular games like Nintendo often does. Friday the 13th, the game is going to be delisted from storefronts at the end of 2023, publisher Gun Interactive has announced. The asymmetrical multiplayer horror game rode a wave of excitement for the genre when it first launched in 2017, yet where competitors like Dead by Daylight have thrived, Friday the 13th hasn't maintained a consistent player base. Now Friday the 13th is approaching a deadline related to its licensing of the original horror film IP, and it's forced to make a difficult decision. When it first launched in 2017, Friday the 13th, the game benefited significantly due to its association with the popular horror films and slasher villain Jason Voorhees. The game's maps included the frightening Camp Crystal Lake from the first Friday the 13th film, Packanack Lodge from the second film, and additional maps from the next three sequels. But the gameplay of Friday the 13th didn't prove to have the longevity it needed. Updates would see surges of players returning, only for them to depart after excitement dwindled. In a post on Twitter, publisher Gun Interactive confirmed that the licensing agreement for Friday the 13th is coming up and it has decided not to renew. The license officially ends on December 31, 2023. As of that date, Friday the 13th, the game will no longer be available to purchase. It'll disappear from all storefronts. Those who have already purchased Friday the 13th will still own the game, of course. That's where a different issue crops up, however. Since Friday the 13th is an online multiplayer game, it doesn't make much sense to continue supporting servers for a game that's no longer on sale. As such, Gun Interactive will keep Friday the 13th online for at least one additional year, through December 31, 2024. After that, it will either shut the servers down or reevaluate whether to keep servers online. Since there's still plenty of time left before Friday the 13th is delisted, Gun Interactive wants to offer an opportunity to check it out that's worth the price even if the game is planned to go offline. Friday the 13th, the game will be discounted to $4.99 across all platforms, with DLC content pricing being dropped, down to 99 cents. It's never great to hear that a game is going to be delisted from storefronts, and even worse to hear servers will be shutting down. Yet licensed online games are unique in that they cost a lot of money to keep going. If they aren't making enough money to keep going, to pay for servers, and for game developers to run them, they become untenable. Friday the 13th is still beloved by its fans and has lasted for 6 years even with a dwindling player base. Having already left his mark on the world of gaming through years spent helming franchises like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. Rockstar Games co-founder Dan Houser has announced his latest venture, a cross-media company named Absurd Ventures. One of the driving forces behind some of the largest properties in the industry, some gamers were less than thrilled when Houser invested in blockchain games company Revolving Games in late 2022. Co-founding Rockstar Games with his brother Sam in 1998, Dan Houser served a variety of roles during his time with the iconic company. In addition to serving as the company's head writer, providing the narrative for nearly every title across Grand Theft Auto's long history, Houser also served as executive producer on multiple Rockstar titles and even did voice work for several games. After over 20 years at the company that he helped found, Dan Houser left Rockstar Games in 2020 for undisclosed reasons, but has continued investing in various ventures related to the gaming and entertainment industry since that time. As reported by gaming news site Video Games Chronicle, Dan Houser has unveiled his latest venture in the form of a media company named Absurd Ventures. Founded to create new IP across all platforms and for all formats, according to the company, Hauser stated that the goal of Absurd Ventures is to tell great stories, wherever and however we can. The announcement of the new venture was accompanied by the launch of a cryptic company website and a bizarre announcement trailer on YouTube featuring a description, reading, storytelling, philanthropy, ultraviolence. With its bizarre imagery, ranging from breakdancing zombies to old protest footage, the trailer looks like something ripped from the unusual shows found playing on TVs throughout Rockstar's Max Payne games. Hauser is looking to have Absurd Ventures write stories for video games, live-action shows, animation, books, graphic novels, and scripted podcasts. The company is based in Santa Monica, California, and carries the tagline, "Finally, an American institution everyone can hate." Hauser took an extended hiatus from Rockstar Games in the spring of 2019. And parent company Take-Two Interactive announced his formal departure from the company in March of 2020. While this is the first we've heard directly from Absurd Ventures, the company's existence was revealed in mid-2021. When incorporation papers identified it as Absurd Ventures in Games as on the new name and Hauser statements. Absurd Ventures looks to now be focusing on multiple media channels rather than limiting itself strictly to video games. While the reach of the fledgling company would obviously be smaller than that of the Japanese media giant, Absurd Ventures may be hoping to create properties that exist across media formats, similar to HBO's The Last of Us TV show and the Mario movie. Until more information is revealed about the company's plans moving forward, gamers will just have to wait and see what Absurd Ventures has in store for them in the future. Sony has doubled down on its belief that first-party PlayStation games shouldn't be available on PlayStation Plus on day one. The company's head of subscription stated that making the first-party games available on PlayStation Plus later benefits the service more. The PlayStation service was restructured on June 2022, giving players access to a tier system that lets players experience classic games alongside access to online multiplayer, exclusive discounts, and a few other benefits. While the service has been popular, some dislike that it doesn't include access to Sony's first-party titles on day one, unlike its competitor Xbox Game Pass. In a recent interview with GamesIndustry.biz, Nick McGuire, the head of subscriptions for PlayStation, has revealed that Sony has no intention of changing its policies. McGuire stated that PS Plus had gained more interest in the long term after its first-party offerings were added to the service several months after they were first released. Putting games in a bit later in the life cycle has meant that we can reach more customers 12, 18, 24 months after they have released. We're seeing customers still get excited about those games and jumping in. For us, that's working. Still, McGuire has pointed out that occasionally there will sometimes be a title that will skirt around this policy on PS Plus, bringing up the release of indie platformer Stray as an example. Stray has brought in the highest number of players that have accessed that title over the first 12 months. Occasionally, there will be an opportunity to invest in a day-and-date like Stray, and we will jump on those when they come in. But for us, letting those first-party games go out to the platform outside the service first, that's working, and that will continue to be our strategy moving forward. When asked about whether this policy will apply to Sony's upcoming live service games, McGuire stated that he couldn't say much on the subject at the moment, but the company will keep a close eye on future developments and adapt PS Plus accordingly. McGuire has also stated that PS Plus will let premium subscribers stream their games through the cloud. This will let players play PlayStation 5 games and game trials without downloading them. Moreover, the head of subscriptions also confirmed that the service had become a hit, with users engaging with this new iteration of the service 7 times more than they did with PlayStation Now. He believes that the reason behind the popularity of the new PS Plus comes down to the diversity offered by the service when it comes to the service's game variety. PlayStation Plus premium subscribers will soon gain access to PS5 cloud streaming after a future update rolls out. Recently, Sony announced several games coming to PS Plus in June, and now, it has unveiled some information about this upcoming update, which can be a game changer for PS5 gamers who want to participate in cloud streaming. Now, PlayStation has announced that it is currently testing a new functionality for PS Plus premium subscribers that will be launched soon, cloud streaming for PS5 games. At the moment, subscribers can already stream games from PS3, PS4, and previous platforms, so the ability to do the same with current-gen games was eagerly awaited by PlayStation fans. Especially as Microsoft offers this functionality for quite some time in its Xbox Game Pass. At the moment, however, it's still not quite clear when this PS Plus update will be rolled out, though, as the company has described this new functionality as still being in its early stages. There's a fairly good chance it won't take too long, though, as Sony already has an extensive cloud streaming structure. Speaking of digital subscription services, video game subscription spending is down in the United States, as services struggle to attract and attain new subscribers. Though Phil Spencer claims that Xbox Game Pass remains profitable, the platform has noticeably reached its user peak, and the current trend certainly casts some doubt into its long-term viability. It's no secret that the year was marked by several stellar releases such as Hogwarts Legacy, Tears of the Kingdom, Jedi Survivor, and Diablo 4. These titles have enjoyed commercial success both on the digital marketplace and with the number of physical copies sold. With half a year left, and highly anticipated games such as Spider-Man 2, Final Fantasy XVI, Baldur's Gate 3, Starfield, and Assassin's Creed Mirage set to make their launch, 2023 is likely to be remembered for its premium releases rather than subscription growth. According to a study performed by Arkane, subscription spending in April 2023 has only increased by 2% compared to April 2022, signifying that growth has effectively stalled. On the other hand, good old-fashioned video game purchases in 2023 have seen record profits despite the increase in price. Players may balk at the $70 price tag for the latest Diablo installment, but Diablo 4 has been breaking Blizzard records. With Starfield being part of Game Pass from day one, people can't help but wonder if Xbox and Bethesda is leaving money on the table. The average player will likely consider picking up a Game Pass subscription on PC in September to play Starfield for just $10 per month, which certainly seems like a better deal than forking out $70 for a new release, but for the success of the game and making the sequel a possibility, it is necessary a single-player game gets bought. We'll see where all this subscription services move forward in the future. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim has just reached a new sales record 12 years after it was first released. With Skyrim having been ported to multiple platforms over the years, it's no wonder that the milestones and achievements it has attained continue to grow. The award-winning title was first released in 2011 to gamers' acclaim for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC. The famed action role-playing game has been one of the prime examples of how games in the genre should be made. Skyrim's open-world design is considered to be one of the best in gaming's history. This is partly the reason why a 12-year-old title continues to have successful sales. There are still a lot more secrets to uncover from the vast regions and locations where players still spend time in-game. During an interview with Bethesda's Todd Howard regarding Starfield, he mentioned Skyrim's sales record achievement in passing. At the 13-minute mark, Howard mentioned that the game had officially sold 60 million copies in its 12-year run. With this information in mind, GamesRadar Plus further confirmed that Skyrim is currently officially the 7th best-selling game of all time, ranking just below Tetris, Minecraft and Grand Theft Auto 5, to name a few. In more cases than one, it seems that many consider Skyrim to be one of the best games of the decade. Its legacy is unmatched and has served as a blueprint for some of the best games to come out after it. As Skyrim is currently available on 8 platforms spanning 3 generations of gaming, there is a case to be made that sales may continue to soar even further, perhaps even when Elder Scrolls VI becomes available in the future. As it stands, many players enjoy returning to the land of Skyrim due to the memorable gameplay it provides. Some even replay and repurchase the game just to provide a new experience. Quality of life improvements, interesting mods, and even VR usage are just some of the features that Skyrim has developed as it was released on new generations of consoles. With new technology continuing to develop, it's not going to be much of a surprise if the game continues to rise on sales charts. Bethesda enjoys the fanfare that the title continues to garner, and the team enjoys experimenting with the IP as well. Such is the case with the Amazon Alexa version, which was more of an Easter egg than an official port. Still, the title continues to be one of the better-selling IPs of Bethesda, and as expected, the company will continue to celebrate its success by providing gamers with more ways to experience Skyrim. And will expect to continue this success with Starfield after the disastrous Fallout 76. A new report reveals that Genshin Impact developer Hoyoverse saw massive earnings over its past fiscal year, topping even gaming juggernaut Sony. While the Chinese development studio was first founded in 2011, the company has only truly seen its worldwide breakout over recent years with the monumental success of its newest games. The developer took the world by storm in 2020 with the release of its flagship RPG and followed it up with the highly anticipated launch of Honkai Star Rail earlier this year. Now, Hoyoverse has solidified its position as a major player in the gaming industry. Genshin Impact's overwhelming popularity has been apparent since the RPG first debuted in September 2020, with the gacha game racking up significant sums of money. The game's newest gacha banners regularly boast over $10 million in sales in China alone, with its most successful banner earning nearly $50 million. The recent release of Honkai Star Rail has performed equally well to its predecessor, with the game's early banners boasting similarly high totals. Now, Hoyoverse earnings over the past year have even seen the studio topping a gaming icon in Sony. Recent financial reports from Hoyoverse have revealed the staggering profits the developer made throughout the 2022 fiscal year. The Chinese studio reported a profit of more than $2 billion throughout the last year, placing the exact total at $2.26 billion. The number significantly tops that of Sony's PlayStation throughout the same year, who reported a still massive profit of $1.84 billion. The profit also comes as part of a year when Hoyoverse put up $3.83 billion in total revenue, with its game's gacha systems proving to be lucrative for the studio. Hoyoverse banner earnings come from a year that saw several significant changes for the developer throughout the course of 2022. Last year saw the annual release of a new region for Genshin Impact with the debut of the Sumeru region, as well as the launch of multiple highly anticipated characters like Nahida and Wanderer. The early parts of 2023 have also seen massive success for the developer, both with Genshin Impact's highest-grossing banner and the previously mentioned debut of Honkai Star Rail. Throughout the rest of 2023, Hoyoverse looks poised to follow up the strong year it saw in 2022 with even greater success. The studio's most recent release in Honkai Star Rail has already amassed a sizable fanbase, boasting over 20 million downloads within just 2 days of its launch. Genshin Impact is also gearing up for the debut of its newest region, with the Hydro Archon's region of Fontaine expected to be added to the game this summer. A similarly successful year to 2022 would see Hoyoverse continue to cement its name among the industry's top developers. It is also scary looking that these live service games makes this much money over a massive publisher, which could lead most towards this dangerous path. During May, U.S. consumer spending on games reached $4 billion, a 12% increase year-on-year, according to the latest Arkane data. Software reached $3.6 billion during the month, as the segment was up 9% compared to last year's performance. Consumer spending for the month on hardware jumped by 56% year-on-year as it amassed $338 million. Arkane said, "This is the highest video game hardware spend for a May month since the $427 million reached in May 2008. Nintendo's Switch console was the best-selling platform for dollar sales during the month." Arkane says spending on the system hit an all-time May high, as its unit sales were the second highest ever for the month, trailing behind May 2020. Video game hardware spending increased 56% versus YA, to $338 million. This is the highest hardware spend for a May month since the $427 million reached in May 2008. Double-digit percentage growth in both PlayStation 5 and Switch dollar sales again offset declines on other platforms, such as Xbox. Let's see if Xbox console sales had raised after that showcase, when the data comes out for June next month. PlayStation 5 continues to lead the 2023 hardware market across both units and dollars in the US. Nintendo's Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom debuted as May's best-selling game, whereas Warner Bros. Hogwarts took second, and EA's Star Wars Jedi Survivor was the third top seller. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was the best-selling game of May 2023, instantly becoming the second best-selling title of 2023 year-to-date in the United States. Despite only physical sales from Nintendo being included in the best-selling titles charts, Hogwarts Legacy dominates the chart at number 1, probably closer to 20 million copies sold now. Accessory spending was up 14% year-on-year, totaling $159 million during May. The PlayStation 5 DualSense Edge wireless controller Black was the top-selling peripheral for the month. In terms of unit sales, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom series won Amiibo character pack-led accessories throughout the month. Sony PlayStation Store is back again with their top monthly download stats, this time around for May 2023. These download stats span across 5 categories: PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, PlayStation VR 2, PlayStation VR and free-to-play. These categories feature metrics from 3 regions: United States, Canada and Europe. For PlayStation 5, the top 5 downloaded games for United States and Canada included Star Wars Jedi Survivor at first, Grand Theft Auto 5 at second, Dead Island 2 at third, NBA 2K23 at fourth and MLB The Show 23 at fifth. For Europe, the top 5 were pretty similar with Star Wars Jedi Survivor and Grand Theft Auto 5 in first and second again. FIFA 23 takes the third spot with Dead Island 2 sliding to fourth and Need for Speed Unbound in fifth. PlayStation 4 in the US and Canada, Hogwarts Legacy came in first, Minecraft at second, FIFA 23 at third, YFC 4 at fourth and Red Dead Redemption 2 at fifth. In terms of Europe, Hogwarts Legacy was first again with FIFA 23 moving up to second, Minecraft fell to third, GTA 5 jumped to fourth and Red Dead Redemption 2 was fifth again. For PlayStation VR 2, US and Canada region saw Beat Saber at first, Walkabout Mini Golf at second and Red Matter 2 at third. In the EU region, Beat Saber maintained its first position with Red Matter 2 rising to second and Walkabout Mini Golf falling to third. Sales of video games, hardware and accessories surged across Europe last month, driven by the launch of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Nearly 10.6 million digital and physical games were sold across Europe last month, the latest GSD data reveals. This covers all retail games released in major European markets, plus digital games from most AAA publishers in all European territories. It's a 33% jump in sales over the same period in May 2022, and that's almost entirely down The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which is the runaway success of the month, selling more than 2.5x the second-placed game, Hogwarts Legacy. After just 3 weeks on sale, Zelda is already the third best-selling game of the year across Europe, behind EA's FIFA 23 and Warner Bros. Hogwarts Legacy. It's worth noting that Nintendo does not share digital download data with the charts, whereas EA and Warner Bros. do. If we look purely at physical retail sales, Zelda is already the #1 game of the year across European markets. The second-placed game is Hogwarts Legacy, which posted a 321% jump in sales month-on-month due to the release of the PS4 and Xbox One version of the game. For May, 71.5% of Hogwarts sales were on PS4, and 11.7% came on Xbox One. The remainder were on current-generation systems and PC. The only other new releases in the top 20 is LEGO 2K Drive, which is down at number 19. Switch reclaims top spot from PlayStation as hardware jumps 40%. Nintendo Switch overtook PS5 in May to become Europe's #1 console once again, driven by the release of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Switch sales across Europe are up over 39% compared with May last year. PS5 had to settle for number 2, but it remains a strong force across Europe, and sales for PS5 are up 81% compared with May 2022. Xbox Series S and X are in third position, with sales down 16% over May last year. Overall, 429,000 games consoles were sold across tracked European markets last year. That's a rise of 40% over the year before. Notable missing countries include Germany and UK. For UK hardware data, I'll cover it next. The UK games market in May was driven by the launch of one particularly big Nintendo Switch game. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was comfortably the #1 game in May, GSD data. And that's without Nintendo sharing digital data with the GSD charts. Nintendo is the only major company that currently withholds these figures. It's the biggest Zelda game launch in UK history, and its lifetime sales have already surpassed most previous games in the series. It only sits behind 2006's Twilight Princess and 2017's Breath of the Wild. The success of Zelda fired the software market in May, with game sales up nearly 30% compared with the same period last year, leading to over 2.17 million titles sold. There was no major game released in May 2022. The other significant release of May this year was Hogwarts Legacy, which arrived on older generation platforms following its huge launch on PC, PS5 and Xbox Series S and X in February. 53% of the game's sales were on PS4 during May, with 24% on Xbox One, with the remainder coming on the current generation machines. The other new release in the charts is LEGO 2K Drive, which crossed the finishing line at number 19. The Legend of Zelda also had a big impact in the console hardware space, too. According to GfK panel data, just under 96,000 consoles were sold last month. That's actually a 10% drop over May last year, and 14% down on April. Nintendo Switch ended PS5's 4-month run as the UK's #1 console, taking the top spot despite a 5% dip in sales month-on-month. However, Switch sales are up 28% over May last year. Why are Switch sales down over April considering Zelda launched in May? Well, the Tears of the Kingdom Special Edition OLED Switch actually arrived in April. Also, April saw continued sales of the Special Mario Edition of the Switch, which was launched to coincide with the Super Mario Bros. Movie in March. Almost 35% of all Switch consoles sold in May were for the Zelda OLED version. PS5 sales dropped 23% month-on-month, and it's the first time all year that PS5 sales were lower than they were during the same period in 2022. Xbox Series S and X sales also fell 10% in May compared with April, and are also down over the same period in 2022. Overall, console sales are up 16.6% so far in 2023 compared with the year before, with PS5 sales up 81%, Switch sales down 8% and Xbox Series S and X sales down 19%. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom dominated the physical charts in Japan for May, unsurprisingly. According to data from Famitsu, the Nintendo title had sold 1.5 million boxed copies as of May 28. Looking at the weekly breakdown, Tears of the Kingdom sold 1.1 million copies on May's second week alone. Considering the title released on the Friday of that week, May 12, that means that it sold these 1.1 million units within 3 days. Famitsu noted that Tears of the Kingdom far outweighed its predecessor, with Breath of the Wild having sold 346,000 copies by its third weekend back in March 2017. The title was also far ahead of competition for May, with the month's number 2, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, selling over 47,000 copies in the meantime. Debuting at number 3, the PS4 version of Hogwarts Legacy sold 43,000 units. Having reclaimed its top spot last month, the Switch topped the hardware charts again in May as a result of Zelda's launch. The Switch OLED represented 52.8% of new hardware sales in May, compared to 47% in April. That represented a bit over 274,000 units sold. Taking into account all 3 models of the Switch, the console sold 345,000 units in May in Japan. The PS5 maintained its second place in the hardware charts, representing 28% of sales, over 145,000 units. It's worth noting that Nintendo games took 7 of the top 10 spots in May, with Breath of the Wild returning at number 6. Here are Japan's top 10 best-selling physical games from May 1 to May 28, 2023, courtesy of Famitsu. The global video games market hit $183 billion in 2022, down 5% year-on-year. The market intelligence firm went on to say that the mobile games amassed $92 billion in revenue. Although the division was down by 7% year-over-year, it accounted for 50% of the global games revenue. The second highest segment was console games, which made $52.2 billion, down 3% compared to last year. Meanwhile, downloaded and boxed PC games hit $36.5 billion, a decrease of 2.6% year-over-year. Browser PC games generated $2.3 billion, as it fell 15% compared to 2021. Regarding spending by region, Asia Pacific led the global market with $84.8 billion, down 9% year-over-year. Second highest region in spending was North America, hitting $49.7 billion, down 2.5% year-over-year. The third was Europe, with $33 billion, down 2% compared to 2021. Additionally, the US and China accounted for 49% alone of consumer spending on games. Newzoo said, most regions saw revenues dip in 2022, with notable exceptions being Latin America and the Middle East and Africa. These two markets represented only 9% of the 2022 revenue total, but both experienced growth. Latin America's games market revenue grew by plus 3.3% year-on-year, while there was a plus 5.8% revenue bump in the Middle East and Africa. The games market in China reached $45.5 billion in revenue in 2022, that's including mobile, console and PC. Chinese games companies accounted for 47% of the mobile games revenue worldwide and 39% of the PC games revenue, a new report from Nico Partners showed. The data firm said the games market in China is expected to grow to $57 billion in revenue by 2027, and an estimated 730 million gamers. The report stated that China continues to be the biggest games market worldwide, with 31.7% of global mobile games revenue and 33.4% of global PC games revenue generated in the country. Looking at its domestic market, 66% of its revenue comes from mobile, 31% from PC and 3% from console titles. Tencent and NetEase continue to be the big players in China, representing a combined 61% of domestic PC and mobile games revenue in 2022. However, Nico noted that this share was in decline compared to 2021 due to weak performance from legacy titles and a lack of new title launches. Lisa Hansen, CEO and founder of Nico Partners said, "Chinese game companies are growing internationally, and they are making bold investments at higher rates than ever." PC games revenue generated overseas by Chinese-owned companies rose by 22% in 2022 and is expected to grow by a 13.8% CAGR through 2027, which is higher than the domestic growth rate by a significant margin. Looking ahead, the market analysis firm said that the global video market will reach $206.4 billion in 2025. Diablo 4 managed to become the fastest-selling game ever made by Blizzard soon after its launch. With only 4 days of early access, Diablo 4 had an astounding release and managed to become a huge hit, with millions of hours played by gamers all over the world, mostly due to the game's quality, coupled with heavy marketing made by Blizzard to increase the hype around it. With the release of Diablo 3 over a decade ago, most players were eager to play the new iteration of the Diablo franchise. Diablo 4 was originally announced at BlizzCon 2019, and it had a few open beta testing phases during 2023, which allowed players to get a preview of what the new game looked like. While a few fans may have been concerned with the title's turn to live services, Diablo 4 got pretty raving reception, which helped to cement its popularity. Soon after its release, Diablo 4 was already announced as the fastest-selling Blizzard game of all time by the developers. In the announcement, Blizzard affirmed that gamers have played Diablo 4 for over 93 million hours since June 1st, when the title was launched in early access. There is still not any information about how many units were sold, though, but considering how high these numbers are, it's likely selling several million units. By comparison, the previous fastest-selling Blizzard game was World of Warcraft Shadowlands in 2020. The title sold more than 3.7 million copies in its first full day on sale. Diablo 3 sold 3.5 million units when it was released in 2012, and the company then called it the fastest-selling PC game of all time. Within 5 days of launching, Diablo 4 sell-through is the box office equivalent of the biggest opening week of the year. Diablo 4 had the best-selling opening in Blizzard's history, crossing an auspicious $666 million in global sell-through in the first 5 days following its June 6 launch star. Blizzard also recently revealed that there are a few expansions coming to Diablo 4. The game will have 2 full seasons of content and 2 complete expansions, which are said to be massive. With the new Diablo being treated as a live service game by Blizzard, players can certainly expect more content than in the previous Diablo 3, as Blizzard will offer constant post-launch updates. Capcom has recently turned 40 and announced that it has sold approximately 500 million game titles globally. Capcom Town, a digital, online destination being launched to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Capcom's founding, the site will feature a virtual museum and playable classic Capcom games. Among its top-selling franchises is Resident Evil. Since the franchise began in 1996, it has moved 142 million units. The firm reported that the Resident Evil 4 Remake sold 4 million copies in April. As of March March 31st, Capcom's Monster Hunter series has sold 92 million games, the series' first title launched in 2004. Meanwhile, its Street Fighter franchise has sold 49 million units, its first game was released in 1987. Street Fighter VI, its newest entry, sold 1 million copies globally within a week after its release. Additionally, Capcom said that it has sold 307 game titles across 230 countries and regions globally. Capcom is a leading worldwide developer, publisher and distributor of interactive entertainment for game consoles, PCs, handheld and wireless devices. Founded in 1983, the company has created hundreds of games, including groundbreaking franchises Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, Street Fighter, Mega Man, Devil May Cry and Ace Attorney. Capcom maintains operations in the US, UK, Germany, France, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore and Tokyo, with corporate headquarters located in Osaka, Japan. We have some more Souls updates such as Octopath Traveler 2 selling 1 million copies and Resident Evil 8 Village selling 8 million units. So, congratulations to them. Nvidia has announced the Omniverse Avatar Cloud Engine for games, integrating several disparate AI-based features and functionalities into one comprehensive gaming AI package. AI-based upgrades for video game NPCs have long been touted as one of the most interesting use cases for modern-day AIs, and it would appear that Nvidia may be making one of the first serious forays into this endeavor. The thing that sets Nvidia apart from its competitors is that the company is going all in on AI. For years, Nvidia's deep learning super sampling has been at the forefront of game upscaling technologies. Thanks to its tensor cores and how they are leveraged and expounded upon in subsequent GPU generations, which has worked out to a fairly significant edge in ray tracing performance, for example. Though ray tracing is an important aspect of rendering, Nvidia is ready to take things to the next level with further AI integrations, it would seem. Namely, the Omniverse Avatar Cloud Engine, or ACE, for games technology allows NPCs with no pre-written dialogue to communicate with the player in real time, with proper voiced lines. The kicker is that ACE for games is, according to Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang, basically a large language model that's been reappropriated for video game integration. ACE for games combines the understanding of natural language, text-to-speech, and facial animation to have NPCs listen to and interact with players in real time. Though Nvidia's GPU business in 2023 has been critiqued for the disappointing performance of some of its RTX 4000 GPUs, the company is still firing on all cylinders on other fronts. ACE could, in theory, revolutionize AI interaction in games, but there are still big questions that Nvidia will need to answer. The obvious issue, for example, is that of running the AI integrations in real time. Nvidia hasn't been clear on exactly what it takes for ACE for games to run properly. Of course, the odds are good that ACE for games will be very interesting to see in action once it finally picks up steam. For the time being, the company's most impressive real-world AI use case is still ray tracing. One of the most prominent and impressive examples of ray tracing is that of Cyberpunk 2077's RT Overdrive mode, which has come up due to Nvidia's cooperation with developer CD Projekt Red. Nvidia's AI-based tech has proven to be very flexible in the past, with modders able to integrate it into games that don't actually support such features by default. A prime example is that of a modder setting up Nvidia DLSS in Fallout 4, alongside AMD and Intel's own upscaling technologies. It's possible that ACE for games will be similarly flexible, but only time will tell. Speaking of AI, mention motion capture and the first thing likely to pop up in your head is an actor in a black spandex suit stuck with rubber balls. This norm, however, may soon be a relic of the past as software from technology company Move hopes to revolutionize motion capture for AAA and indies alike, as well as beyond games. Move's AI technology aims to be a game-changer for motion capture, as co-founder and CEO Tino Miller on the suitless, markerless technology that opens doors for a new world of motion. We've created a platform that allows you to capture authentic, high-quality, high-fidelity human motion, using just regular video cameras, says Move co-founder and CEO Tino Miller. We can capture extremely high-quality human motion, and make sure that motion can transfer and run on different avatars or 3D models. And then be used inside all sorts of different game engines to power really interesting user content. The captures have been tested to work on popular game engines like Unreal and Unity, as well as Roblox and proprietary engines. In fact, Move has already partnered with Electronic Arts, which gave a demonstration at annual computer graphics conference SIGGRAPH last year in Vancouver. Showcasing remarkable results where the same actor capturing motion using Move's system is able to get the same level of quality and accuracy as when using a more incumbent system. The difference in costs and practicalities is what Miller hopes makes Move appealing as well. Traditionally, to get high-quality human motion you need to put people in suits, including animals and kids, and it's pretty uncomfortable, Miller explains. You have to be in a very controlled environment with the right lighting conditions. If you go to the bathroom, you have to take it off, put it back on, recalibrate everything. The process of capturing motion also relies on dozens, sometimes over 100, of high-end specialist cameras, which then also needs to be set up in the right conditions in a studio space. But Move's technology aims to make it more accessible with high-quality motion captured with as little as just 2 cameras, which can be off-the-shelf products or even your iPhone. Move launched its iOS app just last month. The idea is also that this can be done anywhere instead of a studio, such as an office, your bedroom, even outdoors. Move software uses a combination of advanced AI, computer vision, biomechanics, and physics to track multiple points in the human body, and without any markers. We make sure that everything is obeying the laws of motion and momentum to make sure you get accurate and authentic capture coming out from the people in the scene, so we can track a single person or multiple people, Miller adds. Then we translate that data so you can actually run it inside a game's engine or graphics engine. One can imagine how beneficial this technology would have been at the height of the pandemic when studios faced immense challenges adapting to remote capture, with equipment being shipped to actors' homes, who had to transform their living rooms into a capture studio. But the idea had been an occupation for Miller for years before that, having researched continuum mechanics, computer vision, and 3D simulation for a PhD at Imperial College. The real catalyst was, however, based on a simpler personal problem after the birth of his son. I didn't have time to go to the gym anymore, and I was also really busy with work, so I started working out from home using apps, he explains, except he was left wanting from the apps that were available. I thought, let's use the technology that I was making during my PhD, so I set up cameras in my living room. I'd work out and I was using the cameras to track my human motion in 3D, and I was trying to track my sets, my reps, and my technique. From trying to better accurately track his own motion and essentially creating his own digital coach, it eventually evolved into Move, where the software is helping users across mediums to digitize their motions. In the context of motion capture for games, it's a paradigm shift in that it's not only going to benefit the workflow for studios that already do motion capture, but the reduced cost and practicalities means it's going to be more accessible for indie developers, with the budget now being in the tens of thousands rather than millions. Move's ability to capture multiple people at once on the same limited budget can also be an advantage. We've tested it in Wembley Stadium, for example, where we're able to track 22 people to capture a football match, Miller says. Adding that Move can also track objects like a ball being kicked around. We've also tested people playing basketball, rock climbing, break dancers, we've captured ballet, singing, and fashion. Miller sees a big potential for Move in the metaverse, where users don't just make an avatar that looks like them, but can have an avatar that moves just like them. Motion is like a fingerprint, so if you're to motion capture yourself now and see yourself as a stick man, you can tell it's you because you can tell how people move, says Miller. So you can capture that true essence of people and you get a much more unique representation of how they move inside 3D digital worlds. He demonstrates this with a video showing his own son recorded outdoors with that same capture then transferred into the motion of a robot avatar replicating the exact same movements, see below. Another example comes from a user who has been testing the iPhone app in beta where they just captured a local band's performance. And even though the graphics they're rendered into are just stick figures, we can still see the motions of the singer, guitarist, keyboardist, and drummer all transferred accurately. This ability to capture unique motion from a wide variety of people also has greater implications for something like sports games. While Miller isn't able to say what games EA is currently utilizing Move for, the greater freedom and flexibility of the system could mean that you can capture a whole football team instead of just using a few athletes' mocaps to represent every player in the game. Or let's say for the NBA, instead of using semi-professional athletes who've been brought into the studio and their motion is translated in the game. You can use existing camera feeds to capture LeBron James' true motion, Miller adds. Now, when you're playing a basketball game, it has LeBron James' true motion in there, and it comes from his unique motion. That it's possible to capture movements even from existing or historical footage does however raise the question of what happens if the software can be used to capture a person's motion and then have it used without their consent? It's a tricky area, especially if these are motions that are then used as emotes that can be monetized on a digital storefront. Similar to the lawsuits Epic faced over allegedly using copyrighted dance moves in Fortnite. The difference is that you can't copyright an individual's movement, although Miller thinks there will be a legal framework for motion licensing and rights as the industry realizes the opportunity. Our approach is to ensure the highest fidelity motion that can be extracted and working with the talent and rights owners to make this an official licensed product, he says. In our latest investment round, we had a major music label invest, so we're working with them to essentially capture historical artists' motion as well as current artists they have, and then bring that motion into 3D worlds. Digitizing human motion in a way that is accessible to far more people than before remains the mission for Move, while getting rid of the restrictions in the systems people are currently dealing with. Before, motion capture was this kind of painful thing you had to plan out in advance, because renting a studio is costing you tens of thousands per day. And you need to make sure that everyone shows up, and make sure all the equipment's there, explains Miller. But now you can just do this from your living room or from an office, so you can be more iterative. You can have an idea in the shower and be like, let's do the motion capture for that like right now. You can set it up in less than 5 minutes, and you just need some iPhones. It looks like a cool portable motion capture tech. And that's all for the video, guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then from SMPV, it's goodbye.